Welcome to Fertilish, the podcast where we get real about fertility, infertility, and everything in between. I'm Laura.
And I'm Brandis. And whether you're knee-deep in treatments, just starting to ask questions, or somewhere in the ish of it all, you're in the right place.
Here we ditch the stigma, break down the science, and have candid conversations about the messy, emotional, and sometimes hilarious journey to growing a family and preserving your fertility.
So grab your coffee, your meds, or just your curiosity, and let's get into it.
Brandis, welcome back to another episode of Fertilish Podcast. We are super excited to be here today for episode 12. Crazy.
I know. And today we are talking about how to support your loved one through the trying to conceive process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would really love for this to be an episode where even if you feel like that you can't, verbalize, what you need as a form of support through the trying to conceive process, infertility, fertility treatment, whatever that looks like for you. I would love for this to be a tool that you can just send to a loved one, a friend, a family member, a mother-in-law, whatever it is, and say, hey, I would really like for you to listen to this. Mm-hmm. And actually, before we sign off for today, I actually have a really good friend of mine who has been a patient of CNY. That's actually how we met when we both started out as patients of CNY. She has the most precious baby in the whole wide world now. He is just the sweetest. But she shared some things with me that she like some advice that she would like for loved ones of family members.
Oh, cool.
And so I have that she kind of wrote some things for us to share on the show as well today.
Okay. Do you think you want to share it at the end or midway through or just whenever?
Yeah, I can. Okay. Yeah, maybe midway through.
Okay. So for all your well-meaning friends and family that maybe don't always say the right things.
Yes. And I'm going to kind of start off with a little story of my own. So Christmas before last, we were in Arkansas, where I'm from, and we were visiting our family there. And we had just gone through another egg retrieval not too long before this, and a fresh transfer that we ended up losing the pregnancy. And so, it's just like traveling, it's the holidays, you're seeing a lot of friends and family that you maybe haven't seen in a while. And I had just kind of gone all through this. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to have some drinks. It's like, I'm going to have a couple drinks. So my in-laws had come in. They live out of state and from Arkansas, but they had come in. And so we had played cards and just had a grand time. And we were staying with my aunt and uncle for the holidays. And I don't know what happened, but somehow we got on the trying to conceive subject. And my uncle was like, well, why don't you just adopt? And my husband said that he was like, oh, shit, it's about to go down. And he was like, but I didn't care. Whatever you gave to him, he deserved. In that moment, because of everything we had just recently been through, he was like, I was just going to let him get it, whatever it was. But he was like, here we go.
Oh my God. And it's always it's always an uncle. It's always a cousin. Or and it's like, why? I don't even really want to talk about it. So the fact that you just say the most out of pocket.
No, I could literally feel my face steaming. It was probably the same color as my hair. I was just like, this was probably the worst time for you to say that to me. Worst. But here we go. I'm going to educate you on why I would not like you to say that to me again.
Yeah. You can just adopt, or I'm trying to think what other ones I've heard. The just relax, just take a vacation and get drunk, or
we've been to Cabo, we've been to Puerto Rico, we've been to Savannah, Tybee Island, whatever, and yet. It, what, do you hear what you're saying? I wish that it were just as easy as a night out on the town and having a few drinks and then all of a sudden all my woes are a thing of the past. Like, I would love for that to be reality. And I understand that it's like well intended, like, because you do like stress yourself out so much through this whole entire process. And, I understand, like, obviously stress is, creates inflammation. Inflammation's not good for trying to conceive. I understand. But at the same time, like, I promise you, for every time that somebody says, why don't you just relax? That person's thought of that 73,962 times. And it just puts more responsibility, more guilt on them, and actually does the exact opposite and stresses them out more, because it's now like, oh, am I doing this? Am I causing this? Is my like inability to relax, or my inability to like afford to go to acupuncture 7 times a day, or, like get a massage, 90-minute massage 3 times a week, or, is that causing me to not be able to have the family that I desire? And so I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, and you're right. It does put, a lot of unnecessary stress on people. And I always, when people ask, how do I prepare for transfer? And I'm always, part of it is you really can't. We do that part. But, getting enough sleep is important. And then managing stress. And I always put in parentheses, haha, because it's like, obviously. And we know, but that's hard. And it does. So, if everything's perfect, the embryo's right, or if you slept 6 hours or you were a little stressed out that week, truly, that's not going to be the make or break necessarily of your cycle. So when people say things like that, or oh, I don't know, like, why you're having such a hard time, my husband looks at me and I get pregnant, or like, just wait till like, oh, you want this, but just wait until you have to go through pregnancy, or you
can have some
a
of
baby
my
crying,
kids.
and
No, I don't want your kids. I've heard them. Like, they're not. I don't want them. Thanks. They're cute and all, but like, no, I'm good. Well, I want my own child.
And haven't went through fertility treatments to conceive, but like, even my friends that have, or patients that have, and I hear their family members in the room, or, they tell me stories that's like, ooh, it takes a lot for me to even bite my tongue sometimes in transfer rooms, when you hear, a well-meaning mother-in-law or somebody in the room and say something, and it's like,
did you think about how that sounded before it came out? Yeah. And I think that, like, that's the thing, like, they haven't gone through it, so they don't have the level of understanding that, a person who has gone through the trenches does. But I think, like, the thing that we like teach our kids as little ones, like, if it's not helpful, if it's not whatever the adage is, like, let's not say it, right? So like, I mean, maybe just like taking a few extra pauses to think, I know how I intend this, and I know how I mean for it to come out, but how are they going to receive it? And trying to put yourself in their shoes. And if you don't know, that's okay. You can always ask your loved one, whether it's your daughter-in-law, your son-in-law, your daughter, your sister, your brother, your friend. You can always ask them, how can I best support you? And I think that's like the number one piece of advice that I have, is that, like, it's okay to say, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what to do for you. Like, I want to make it better. I want to show you that I'm here for you. But I don't know how to do that. Can you help me to know, like, how you can best receive support? Because that's going to look different for each individual.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And, sometimes it's not even needing any help necessarily, or advice with fertility treatments at all, but just even a safe space to vent to, or to say, hey, I just need like a distraction nights, or I just want to hang out or go on walks at night. And maybe even some people, I don't I don't even want to talk about fertility stuff. So unless I bring it up,
Yeah.
like, I just need distractions. I need like a friend to walk with or someone to vent to when I need to.
Right.
So everyone is so different. And like you said, telling someone, how can I support you? And whether that be talking about it, giving them rides to appointments, sending meals over, DoorDash gift cards.
Yeah, pop it in with the lasagna. Yeah, whatever it is. Like, white people, we love to give a casserole. Like, whatever that looks like. Like what's something, like, these are people that and love well enough to know, like, a little bit about, like, what their love language is. Like, if they have a favorite meal and this is your daughter and son-in-law, and like, this is your daughter's favorite meal that she loves for you to cook, like, maybe just, like, every once in a while, be like, hey, like, I made XYZ, when's a good time for me to bring it to you? Or, I was thinking about making this, like, what night's best for you? And just kind of, like, trying to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, and we've even brought up before on Etsy, if you type in, like, IVF care kit, they have all kinds of, like, cool egg retrieval socks, embryo transfer socks, pineapple stickers, pineapple Band-Aids, like, those things, even to help them, like, throughout the process, or even if they're just funny things, or a blanket, like, those things are nice, and they're pre-made kits, and those are easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Or individual little things, or, there are things on Amazon that I've found, but I do feel like Etsy has been, like, the hub for, like, all things, like, IVF or embryo transfer, IUI, I feel like that there's a wider array of, like, cuter things on Etsy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, it's not even just, and I don't think people realize, it's not even just the struggle of trying to conceive, but IVF, IUI, all of these things are such, obviously, emotional tolls, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
Even the hormones that, and I always hear about the Clomid crazies, or, with injections you feel bloated. Sometimes you don't feel the best. So it's not even just that they're in a normal state of mind sometimes, like, after all the hormones, the injections, that can kind of change things as well. You don't always feel the best.
Absolutely. Or like yourself at all, I recently asked my husband, I was like, I saw a TikTok or something where this woman was like, talking about, like, how crazy she had been, like, making light of it, right? Like, how crazy she had been, like, during stimulation meds. And I was like, oh, I don't act like that. Like, do I? Like, I'm just like myself, right? And he was like, yeah. Cues the basketball game, that's right, babe. Like,
so white lies, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes those are helpful. Or just like a little text that's just like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I think you're freaking amazing. Just, it doesn't even have to be related to fertility treatment. It can just be, like, uplifting, or, like, I just wanted you to know that I love you. Thinking about you. Whatever it may be, like, sometimes those at just, like, unexpected times can get that person through who knows what hurdle.
Oh, yeah. And I have a friend that's, like, really good at that, whereas sometimes I won't even reach out for a while, and she'll be like, oh, let's go, come over. Let's go for a walk. Let's do this. Or sometimes it's like, I want to go to Starbucks, come for a ride. And it'll be like, Starbucks, we'll go to TJ Maxx and smell some candles. And it's like, okay, I feel a lot better.
Oh, that is my love language. What are you talking about? TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and oh yeah, absolutely. I'm right there.
Well, and that's, important to have friends that, like, know that. And there was even a night I text you and you called, and I was like, a horrible night, and we ended it laughing. And so it's so important, I feel like, to have that support from people. And I feel like you really won't know what someone needs unless you ask them.
Yeah.
So you're right. Instead of, like, just offering up advice.
Unsolicited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, the toxic positivity is another one. That's hard.
That is, oh my gosh, like, that's a hard one for me. I, like, had done that to myself when I first started fertility treatment. And I was like, I had it in my head that if I didn't think, like, only positive thoughts and say my mantras and all the beliefs or whatever, like, it wasn't going to work. And then it didn't work. And then I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can be me now. The perpetual pessimist. Cool. Back to reality. Yeah. So then I was just like, oh no, I'm not doing that again. Like, that was stressful. Like, trying to stay positive all the time. And, like, if that's what works for you, if you like need, if that, if that's like that, I'm not that person. Like, I need to bitch and complain and moan and all the things. Like, no. And then I just need to get it out. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, cool, I'm better. Like,
yeah, the affirmations too for sure are hard. I've seen those, and sometimes when you feel like trash, standing in front of a mirror and saying, I am strong, I am all the courageous I am, and it's like, I'm not. I'm actually really sad. And like,
and it's
let me
okay
feel
not
that.
to be. That's right. Absolutely. Like, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to like be like, this sucks. And it's okay to feel like this is not fair, because it's not. And it's okay to like, and normal to feel like jealousy. Like, I've gone through all the stages of like, you read a news article where, and you might just be fine, but you read a news article where like a parent has like done something horrible to their child. And you're like, why did they get a baby? Like, why? They didn't even want that child. Like, why? I would love nothing more than to have, a child with my husband, like, and give my daughter a sibling. Like, this would be a very loved child in a very loving home. Like, I don't know why that happened. And so that can send you spiraling, and like, it's okay. It's like normal, like, to like have those thoughts, or, like, see someone who's like spinning out on, social media because they're devastated that they're pregnant again,
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, girl, I'm unfollowing you now. Like, no, that was the end. That was
Yeah.
Nope. Actually, I think I'm blocking you, but yeah. Yeah, so like, for like advice for like loved ones, for example, your sister-in-law and brother are going through infertility, and you're pregnant, or you find out you're pregnant. Like, that's a really hard space for like a loved one to be in, because you're like left in this weird place where like you're overjoyed for your own family and the growth of your own family, but you're still grieving for like what they don't have, what they desire, but you still deserve like, all the things and all the happy moments with your pregnancy. And so I think just like being intentional about like how it's like brought up to them, and being intentional about including them in the bits and pieces of maybe a baby shower or a birth, and in ways that they like want or need to be included, but also being respectful of like the boundaries that they have to set up for themselves as well, so that way that there's like somewhere of a happy balance of like everyone getting the majority of what they need and want, and everyone being respectful of one another.
Yeah.
Because just because this family is going through infertility doesn't mean that like, you have to miss out on all the like, joys of being able to celebrate your own pregnancy. But I think we just have to like be intentional about like how it's presented, the timing in which it's presented, obviously like being cognizant of if they just found out that they had a failed embryo transfer, maybe like that day is not the day to announce your pregnancy, right? So like, let's just, be intentional about it.
Yeah, and I think, it's a hard skill to try and meet people where they're at on their own. It's something I've had to learn how to do with this job. Like I said, sometimes, I mentioned this before, we're celebrating with somebody for a graduation to their OB. Some people are having miscarriages. Some people are doing transfers. Some people are in retrieval crying because they don't know what to expect and they're afraid of anesthesia. So I feel like it's an acquired skill, obviously, and it's for me, it's somewhat easier to do with strangers. But it's hard when it's a loved one or it's a family member because you
Well,
can
there's increased
meet-
expectation.
Yes, and you want to fix everything for
Yeah.
them. And I feel like that's where it's hard to not throw in the toxic positivity
Yeah.
or the, I've had someone miscarrying and a family member in the room saying, well, at least you can get pregnant. And it's like, okay, this was their 5th time pregnant. And now they're going through a so that's hard.
Not helpful, Susan. Not helpful. Okay, sorry, no disrespect to Susans out there. I'm just, little humor. But that's not an appropriate time. There's not really an appropriate time to say that, but definitely not an appropriate time to say that. So yes, being intentional about what you say and the timing in which you say it. That's. She knows she can get pregnant, clearly.
That's not the That's not the problem. Yeah, and
also
that's
not
hard.
helpful. Because she's no more closer to bringing home a baby than if she wasn't pregnant, because she's lost it. And it's not like her grieving should be less because she was pregnant for 8 weeks. That's not.
Yeah, and we brought up the no toxic positivity and the fact that I think even normalizing the fact that these feelings are okay to feel and just letting those feelings be and then being able to like be present in them and sit in them and then let them go.
Yeah.
A friend even that you can just, I don't need any encouragement. I really just want to like watch a TV show and cry or have a wine night even and cry.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what I want. And so being able to just be there with somebody through that or being like an ear, letting them listen, sometimes that's it. That's all you have to do. There's no
you don't
advice,
have to fix
nothing.
it for them. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I can only imagine as a mother seeing your daughter go through this or your daughter-in-law, with your son, I could imagine that that's very difficult because, as a mom, you want to fix things and, this is not something that you can fix. And so, you really kind of taking a step back and realizing there may not be advice that I can offer them and that's okay. But I can be here to love you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, I kind of unconventional other ways too. If you have an LGBTQ couple that's going through it, we always used to say, oh, have a night where you have coffee or wine and sit and pick a sperm donor. How fun.
Yeah.
Being there for milestones or for embryo transfers or for doing things like that. Even with egg freezing, I have experienced a lot where people will say, oh, well, you're freezing your eggs. Do you want kids? When? And it's oh, well, are you going to have kids? Because, you can't have kids forever. And it's okay.
How about it's none of your business?
Number one, well, first off, sometimes you tell people this, even couples, and it's they may not even want kids. And number two, we're aware.
Right.
Everyone is aware of that. And so I just feel when you tell people these things, whether they're in a relationship, not, even if you could tell people this and they may be trying to conceive and you just have no idea, we should just make it a rule across the board. Fertility is off limits unless someone brings it up.
Yeah. And, I think that on that same token, the question of how many children do you have is a very innocent question. Mm-hmm. But going through this journey with pregnancy loss, it never occurred to me before I went through this journey, I would say 1. Mm-hmm. But then now, as I've gone through pregnancy loss, it's always a sting.
Yeah.
But then I don't tell perfect strangers oh, well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Because that's whoa, okay, I didn't ask all that,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that's something that even me, I think that's a normal question when you meet people that a lot of people ask. And so I have really tried to curtail my just normal conversational, just making small talk. icebreaker type, of questions, because I've realized like how that could be very hurtful, in the wrong situation, or if you say one, like, I've gotten well, you don't want to have any more? Oh, no, I do. Yeah, actually, yes, for
Yeah.
sure. But so, I think that like I've even had to be, cognizant as a patient and someone who works in fertility of like how I, approach just like small talk with individuals. And so I think it's something that we all, I don't think this is not meant for like people to like feel like they have to walk on eggshells or pins and needles around, because that's like the last thing that someone wants that's going through this journey is like for you to withdraw from them. Like, they want to know you're still there and that you love them, and they don't want you to be nervous around them.
Yeah.
But I think that just like setting some intentions and, like education and awareness, is really important, because these are things that because you haven't been through them, you are somewhat naive to, and like, I don't wish that anyone like had to go through to learn it, but I think as we, want to support our loved ones, friends, family members, I think part of that is education and just like awareness of things that may, benefit a mutual relationship.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point of like sometimes I didn't realize even like how much of a topic it was until I worked here. That like, oh, are you gonna have any more kids? And you don't realize they're struggling, and I didn't even realize really how common it was until I started working here. So it really gives you a new view, that maybe well-meaning people obviously don't see every day and don't know about. And I think for most people, even just a text saying, hey, thinking of you guys, I know you're going through this, I'll be here whatever way I can, just let me know. Like just letting people kind of come to you and letting them tell you what they need is so helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And just, just asking them like, hey, how can I best support you? Whether that's, like you said, like meals, just a little handwritten note, a little single flower, just, hey, I just, this made me think of you. I thought you might like this. Sometimes it's just like small little gestures without even the like pressure of the conversation, just tiny little gestures that was like, hey, I was just thinking about you. I thought this might be something that you like. And it's not anything that has to cost a lot of money, or it could be just a little note written on a Post-it, like, hey, you look beautiful today, or, just small little gestures to just remind them, I love you, I see you, I support you, and I'm here for you. Let me know how I can, be here for you further.
Do you feel like, or I guess, is there something that anyone has done when you've been going through this that necessarily stuck out to you that you felt was helpful?
Yeah. So a fellow fertility friend of mine, she knew I was having kind of a relatively hard, difficult time. And one day she texted me and was like, hey, check your front porch. We go in and out of the garage. So like, unless I'm expecting something, I'm not checking the front porch. And so she had sent me an Amazon package, and it was this tiny little coin that you could like put in your pocket or your wallet, or just like carry with you. And it had just like, it was basically saying like, you're amazing. Like, I just think, whatever, but it was something that you could just kind of carry with you. Whether you wanted to take that into like a procedure, or just like, put it in your shoe for the day. And every time you kind of felt it, like, be like, I'm loved.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And it was just really precious to me, and I still have it, and I keep up with it. And, obviously it makes me think of her each time I find it in my wallet. And so it was just something that was just like, there was no conversations needed. It was just like, hey, I just want you to know, like, you're loved and I'm here for you.
That's cool. And I think little tokens like that, especially in the IVF world, are very, or even just the fertility world, are very easy and so simple.
Yeah.
I know it's just kind of whenever I have time to run to Hobby Lobby, I've done they're in the jewelry section. They're like little canisters, I guess, and I'll put glitter in them, and then I'll tie a little tiny thing, and they look like Alice in Wonderland tags, and it just says
baby
like
dust?
baby dust.
Oh,
and
I love that.
For transfers, I will give people baby dust from my pocket, and I'll just say, okay, baby dust to you guys, good luck.
I love that.
And I do that, but like I said, it just depends on if I run out when I have time to run to Hobby Lobby. So I've had patients come in and they're like, can I have it? And I'm like, oh, I don't have, I need to go to the store. I haven't made more. But I do that from time to time. And, you know, even for if you have a loved one going through it and, you know, they have a transfer, like that's super simple to make.
And like super like inexpensive.
Oh, yeah.
Just, that is
a little
adorable.
thing with glitter and a tag. Like,
and would mean
easy.
the world to that person. Like,
and it's so cool because I have patients that will send me pictures that, like, of holding their baby and the baby dust bottle next to it, and they're like, look, I kept this, and it's like, that's so cool. And that took me 2 seconds and cost me like 5 cents, you know?
Oh my gosh, that is precious. I love that.
Yeah, so little things like that are so like
wait till I get home and I go to Hobby Lobby, and then I'm going to make a bunch and send them to you for your patients. That's adorable.
Well, they're fun. I love doing them. And sometimes even my mom will bring it up and she'll be like, do you have baby dust? Let's make some.
Aww.
And it's like fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I brought it up. I have horrible handwriting. And so my cousin lives in Denver. Whenever she comes to stay with me, I'm like, I need you to sign these texts. Because the poor people that got them 2 weeks ago are like, oh, these are like the Timu ones.
Say?
I know. They're like, how come we got the Wish version of these? I'm like, oh, because I actually did it. But yeah, so I think, you know, little tokens like that mean a lot to people going through this.
Absolutely. Yes. No, absolutely. I think that's like a precious, precious idea. Like, just something that it's no pressure. Just like, hey, just thinking about you. Like that's, you know, something that you can kind of just be like, wow, like they're like paying attention. They're like, they see me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you said your friend had a story or she brought up something that someone helped her?
So my friend Crystal, she has this beautiful little baby that's CNY baby. And so she wanted to kind of share some things about you know, just like some advice to loved ones of people going through fertility treatment. So she said, I guess everyone is different and has different needs, but for me, I think the biggest thing is just to be present. I feel like a lot of my relationships changed when I started treatment because I wasn't fun anymore, or I never felt good, or I was always tired. And most people don't understand any of those statements and how serious it is unless they experience it firsthand. But the toll that the hormones and medications take on your body is life-changing. So don't just send a text once a month to check in, but if you really care and want to be there and support a loved one, call, text, check in often, and not just a vague, how are you, but a true, is there anything you need or anything I can do to help or make things easier? Another thing for me is I like when people asked questions that make me feel like they truly cared and wanted to be a part of the journey. Educational questions to better understand the process. Things that I hated was immediately after a transfer day, every day for the first 2 weeks, people asking, are you pregnant? Did it work? That's one of the really sensitive questions because the first beta day is so scary. And number one, if I'm not going to tell you over a text, like it's no big deal. Number two, nothing is guaranteed until well into a pregnancy, if even then. And number three, if it's a failed transfer, you need time for yourself to process. I also hated when people say, well, if this doesn't work out, would you want to adopt? No one realistically wants to think about only being left with a decision that maybe was not for them. And now I constantly hear, are you planning or wanting to have another one? And I'm just like, people, do you know how hard it was to get in here? I want to enjoy and cherish every second. And who knows, that may not even be a possibility down the line. Fertility treatment doesn't have any guarantees. So it doesn't really matter what I want. And show lots of grace. Because again, all capital letters, hormones.
Oh, I love that. And there's so much like truth in that. And, you know, like she says, just not just checking in once or twice, being there consistently.
Yeah.
And another good point, you know, with who texts constantly like, oh, did it work? And purposely for this reason, like whenever I've taken like a board exam or I've like never told anybody when it was.
The day, yeah.
Because I'm like, number one, I don't want you texting me after how was it, because if I failed, how embarrassing. And the other part of it, like, I just need to like sit in it for a second, and I might actually schedule another one and pass it before you like before I ever tell you.
Yeah.
So yeah, to say, oh, did it work? Like, just, I don't know that I'd even reach out to somebody after that. I might just let them tell me, because you never know,
Yeah, and I think that that's like when the education piece comes into play. Like, okay, you had the transfer, but you don't know if it works. You don't know it works until that 2-week wait that we've talked about, or, I mean, essentially it's a few days shy of 2-week wait, but, it's that period of time. And then if it didn't, like asking at that pivotal moment, I think that like you need time to process that in whatever way is good for you. Well, not good, because it's not ever, good, but whatever way that you need to process it. So, if you're a single mom by choice, I'm sure that feels extremely isolating. And if you are single dad by choice, same thing, right? So if you have a partner, then like you both are processing it differently. And, I think that like just being respectful of people's need to like, first of all, comprehend the information themselves, digest it, and then, start to like think about those things that we've talked about before, like formulating a plan. I do always recommend to kind of have a plan for like worst case scenario, just in case it does happen. That way there's like, okay, this is the next step. Like you've already decided, like, if this happens, this is the next step. For me, it was, okay, the next step is to call the next morning, get on the schedule for those WTF call, for that WTF call, like, so that way I needed to like actually make a tangible step and have done a task.
Yeah.
That was a step in the right direction for me to like have a next, a plan in place.
Yeah.
And so like that's what worked best for me. It, for you, it may be to just like not think about it for a little bit of time. Like, hey, I'm going to take a month or 2 off. I don't want to talk about fertility. Think about it, whatever. I need to put all these meds up, like get this crap out of my sight. And that's okay. Like whatever it is for you. And so, I think that like just being respectful of whatever their processes need to be, but still being like present.
Yeah, and we say that for family and friends, and you brought it up to partners. I think even asking your partner, how can I support you through this? I know
Absolutely.
I always see stuff on Instagram about IVF, but one husband brought his wife, every time she had an egg retrieval, he brought her a thing of roses, and it was however many eggs that was retrieved, and just different ways. And, do you feel better if I'm at every follow-up talk with you? Do you not care if I'm at those? Do you want me? Like, and that goes both ways for males and females.
Yeah.
Ask your partner, what can I do that's going to make this easier, and vice versa. And I think having that open communication during this process is so important to like even keep the relationship healthy when going through this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. I mean, that's a huge part of it is communicating with each other. Like, what do you need from me? How can I show up for you? And, how can I show you love during this time, through the highs and the lows? Because at the end of the day, while we're doing this, like this is, it was me and you first, like that's where all of this started. And so, I think it's important. It's something that I'm guilty of. Like, I don't ask my husband enough, like, hey, how can I show up for you? And I need to do better about that. I need to be more intentional about that. And, because I think that it's easy to get like caught up in your own mess a lot of times. And, you're there with each other day to day. So it's like, hey, I do these little small acts of kindness, but, not too long ago, I asked my husband, like, I was like, what are some things that like I do that like, makes you feel loved? And he was like, you iron my clothes up for me every night. Like, so like every night he never has to worry about, he wears dress clothes each day and he never has to worry about like his, they're ironed and hanging on the rack for him. And he was like, that's something that like, I really feel loved. Like, I feel like that you took time out of your evening. And I was like, what? Like, to me, that was such a simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, what? Like, that's nothing. But for whatever reason, it really made him feel loved. And so it could be something super simple, like whether it's your partner, your child, your sister, brother, your friend. Like sometimes it's like the smallest little things that really make a difference and really make them feel seen and heard and loved.
Yeah, well, and you even brought up the other day groceries, that he likes to cook and get the groceries.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that sounds great, because
It
I
is.
am not really a cooker, and I also hate going grocery shopping, so I don't. And
No, that
so
is a
just
big
no-
one. I acknowledge. That is not something that I see as a small thing. That is something that is huge for me. I don't even remember the last time I went in the grocery store, and I sound like a brat saying that, but like that is the truth, and I am very grateful for it because I do not like those. Like, I do not like doing that. But that is a huge way, in my opinion, that he like shows up for me and like shows his love for me, because he knows that I like really do not like doing it.
Yeah, and it's so important that you're not only getting, support, obviously, from family and friends, but partner as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there anything else you can think of that maybe you've heard that you wouldn't want to hear, or just different ways people you feel like can show support?
I think that I think the main thing, there's probably a whole host of, a whole list of things that we could say, like, don't say this, say this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it boils down to, like, just taking those few extra seconds to kind of think about, like, how it's going to be received. Because perception is everything, right? Like, they don't know how you intended it. They know how it was received to them. And, maybe, like, it doesn't have to be the things you say all the time. It can just be, like, little acts of service, whether that's, like, hey, I'm going to, stop by and bring you dinner tonight, or, like, did you know your car washed, or, I don't know, whatever that is, or little tokens, gestures of love, a little text, say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I think that those things go a long way, and we can really, carry us through, and don't just, like, be nosy.
Yeah.
Like, you can ask the questions, but, like, show you care, too.
Yeah.
Like, because at some point it just feels like through this journey, you're poked and prodded physically so much, like, literally I can't even explain to you, whether it's with needles or transvaginal probes or, all the thing. Like, the last thing that we need is, like, our family and friends, like, probing, with their words or whatever too. Like, so yeah, I think that just like, there's a lot of tiny, small little gestures that you can make to show up for them, and and even like maybe follow an Instagram page that has nothing to do with your relative, but has something to do with, fertility, or a TikTok, and like just take a few minutes every now and then. You're scrolling on Instagram anyways, you're scrolling on TikTok anyways, or whatever. Take a few minutes to like kind of see some things from someone else's point of view that may help you to like show up better for your loved one.
To understand the process, what all the lingo is,
Yeah.
What they're going through, what it means, I agree that's like, I think that's a really good tip, is to be educated on, maybe even what they're going through, and that's, helpful to kind of help understand the process for sure.
Yeah, because then they have to explain it all over to you again every time you talk about it. At some point, it becomes so cumbersome that it's like, I don't really want to talk about it anymore, because now I've had to spend 45 minutes explaining all of these nuances just to get to the point of what I was trying to make.
Yeah, well, like you said, for an embryo transfer, like, congrats, you're pregnant. And it's like, well, not really. But I don't want to explain that to you. Like, You know, like
Yeah.
that gets hard. So yeah, being able to be educated about the process, I think, was helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And if any of our listeners, have ways that they like enjoy being looked after, cared for, loved, supported through this journey, or things that have not felt good, in ways that they like, maybe well-intended relatives or family friends have tried to show up, but, or maybe not well-intended. We would love for you to send those to us, and share those, those moments and stories, and maybe, help other listeners, as they're navigating their journey. We can share those with them and maybe like, these are ways that you can show up or not. So at cnyfertility.com/fertilish. You can always reach us on Instagram also. You can DM us. Either one of those are going to come to me and Brandis, and we'll be able to read them and share anything that you would like for us to share with listeners. Anything that you don't want us to share, we definitely don't have to. It can remain anonymous and just between the three of us. So we would love for you to subscribe, like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. And join us again next Tuesday for another episode of Fertilish.
Yep, we'll see you next week.